Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Abacus Next Free Training Thursdays webinar. This week, we're going to be focusing on the built-in tools and reporting features that are included within Amicus Online at a high level. My name is Darren Juby, and I'm a product trainer here at Abacus Next, and my focus is the Amicus Attorney product line, which of course includes Amicus Online. Now, we're going to be covering a lot of information over the course of the next hour here today, so without further ado, let's begin. So to begin with, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give a brief agenda of the topics that we're going to be discussing and demonstrating here this afternoon. We're going to talk about the date calculator and how to utilize it. We're going to take a look at conflict checks. We'll discuss what is a conflict check and how do we run one within Amicus Online. We'll take a look at the time entry assistant. We'll discuss how to utilize the time entry assistant to capture the time that you may have missed. As well, we're going to take a look at a couple of administrator-only features within Amicus Online, the first of which is the mass time entry change. Using the mass time entry change utility, we're able to edit multiple time entries at one time. We're also going to take a look at the collection assistant. Now, that's something that's available to all users within Amicus Online, and we'll talk about and demonstrate how to utilize the collection assistant to send late payment reminders for overdue bills to your clients. We'll also take a quick look at the floating timer, and we'll discuss how to leverage the floating timer to work on a time entry without opening its details. We'll take a look at the reports within Amicus Online and do a basic overview of those reports that are included within Amicus Online and demonstrate how to work with them. And then we'll take another look at one of the administrator-only features within Amicus Online, and that being the import functionality. I'll do a quick overview of the import functionality that is available within Amicus Online for all of you. And of course, if there are any questions, time permitting at the end of our session here, we will take a crack at answering those for you. And in the event that I'm not able to answer them or we don't have time for me to do so, please do include your email address, and I will be happy to follow up with you afterwards to provide you with the information that you seek. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me get rid of my beautiful little splash screen here. And let's begin by taking a look at some of these tools that are built into Amicus Online. So you'll see that I'm logged into Amicus Online here as a regular user. I'm logged in as Eugene Young here. And of course, given that we're talking about the built-in tools and reporting features within the program, well, it would make sense that we're going to be focusing a lot of our time on the tools module here within Amicus Online. Now to get there, I just simply have to select tools across the menu bar here at the top, like so. And in doing so, you'll see that I'm now presented with the Tools module within Amicus Online, and it is presenting me with several different options, such as the Time Entry Assistant, the Collection Assistant, the Date Calculator, the Conflict Check, and the Floating Timer. Now, as well, you will see reports over here as well, so do note that we're going to take a look at that as we move along further here in today's session. So the first thing that I want to talk about and demonstrate with you guys today is the Date Calculator. So let's talk about that and how to utilize the Date Calculator, and we'll do some demonstrations about it as well. So to take advantage of the Date Calculator utility within Amicus Online, just like we did, you'd simply log into Amicus Online and navigate to the Tools module by clicking Tools on the main menu bar, like we did. Now, once we're in the Tools module, we would simply click on the Date Calculator, like so. So let's briefly touch upon now how we can utilize the Date Calculator. So let me just move this a little bit here so hopefully it's more viewable for you all. So we can calculate a specific date. So let's take a look at that. So for example, we may have 30 business days after a judgment has been handed down to us to file an appeal. Now, I'm going to leave this as business days. You'll see that I could use the arrows here to increase the number, but why bother when I can simply type it in here as well? So we're going to utilize this Date Calculator to find out the exact deadline. So we will presume that we need to get this judgment that's 30 business days from now. We'll use today's date as the date on which that judgment was handed down to us. So we've selected business days, and we're going to say after, so you will note that in the available field at the top of the Date Calculator here, when I'm selecting the amount of days, do note that when I click on there, like so, I've got options for business days, calendar days, weeks, months, and years. Now as well, In the corresponding drop-down field, we've also got this, after or before. Now, I'll talk about between in just a few moments, but right now we're going to focus on either the after or before options. And you'll note that depending on which one I select, nothing really changes as far as the rest of this particular dialog. When I select between, you'll note some changes. So like I said, we'll take a look at that in a few moments. So there, we've also got the corresponding date field. So from here is where we would select the date from which we want the calculation performed. So like I said, we're going to use today's date as the date on which that judgment was handed down to us. Now, we can also state if we weren't using business days for an example, so let me quickly show you that. If I change that to calendar days, for instance, you'll see that I now have this option available to me. If the day falls on a weekend or a holiday, what do I want Amicus Online to do for me? Do I want to show it anyways, show the previous business day, or show the next business day? Now again, I'm selecting business days, so you'll see that that gets grayed out. And I've also got a national holidays drop down here. I could select from Canada, the UK, or the United States of America. Now, in my case, we'll leave this as USA for the purposes of our session here. And so at this point, I've input all the information I want. I want to know what the date's going to be, 30 business days after today. Let's calculate that. And you'll see that it's telling us it's going to be May the 2nd, 2019. And I could even go so far as to click on Show Me This Day and watch what happens. You'll see that I am taken to that particular date in the calendar module of Amicus Online here. So let me go back to Tools here. And I'm going to show you guys as well how to calculate the number of days between two dates. So let's do this. We're going to change this to between. And we could leave this as business days. We could say calendar days. We could say weeks, months, or years. Let's leave it as business days for this purpose. And let's say that we want to know how many days are between now and, well, let's just use that May the 2nd option that it gave us earlier. And let's calculate that. Again, I'll leave my national holidays as being those of the United States. And you'll see it's calculated for me. That's 30 business days. Now, in the calculations, business days excludes weekends and the holidays for your firm's country, or the country that's been selected in the national holidays dropdown, which of course is this one right here. Now, the following is a breakdown of how the holidays for each country, a breakdown of the holidays for each country that are available from the dropdown. So for the United States, we've got New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas Day. In Canada, we include New Year's Day, Good Friday, Easter Monday, Canada Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. And for the UK, it's New Year's Day, Good Friday, Easter Monday, the early May bank holiday, the spring bank holiday, the August bank holiday, Christmas Day, and the Boxing Day holiday. And there's an option for an additional Boxing Day holiday if necessary. So once we've completed with the date calculator, we simply have to click the close button like so to get rid of it. And so that, in a nutshell, at a very high level, is the date calculator utility within Amicus Online. So now let's take a look at another one of the utilities that are available to us here. Now, the reason that I'm going to start off with this one next is because we might have to wait a little while for the process to complete, and you guys will understand what I mean by that in just a few moments. So we're going to take a look next at the conflict check utility. And before we do so, let's just briefly discuss what is a conflict check, and then we'll get to how we run one. So Amicus Online can assist you in checking for conflicts of interest among the people or the companies that the firm is dealing with or has dealt with in the past. This could be helpful towards obtaining liability insurance reductions, for example. Now, something to note, we do suggest that you check with your insurance provider to find out if they offer any reductions for firms that use Amicus Online. Now, what is searched by a basic conflict check? Well, all contacts and files in the firm, regardless of whether you have access to them or not, are included in a basic conflict check. Now, Items that can also be searched are all the items that are associated with those particular files, such as email, appointments, tasks, phone calls, documents, time entries, expenses, draft bills and finalized bills or invoices, depending on how you want to refer to them, payments, and trust transactions. Now, full text searching is done in any of the attachments on the emails on those files and in the documents that are associated to those files as well. So, to utilize the conflict check within Amicus Online, well, we would navigate to the Tools module like we have already done so here. And of course, for those of you who are perhaps coming in a little bit late, we simply click on the Tools button here up on the menu bar to get to the Tools module. So once we're here in the Tools module, we would click on the conflict check icon, like so. So I'm going to do a basic search here, and I've got some contacts that I added earlier. I've got George Costanza, I've got his father Frank Costanza, and his mother Estelle Costanza. So I'm going to put the last name Costanza in my search here. And I'm going to click on Check Now. Now, before I do so, I'm going to give a little bit more background to this. So we've entered in the search details essentially here, the name of a person or a company. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using a single word truncation, if you will. So an example here would be if you're not sure of the exact name, try typing only the first part of it, for instance, to find as many potential matches as possible for more complete results. So an example would be if we were trying to do a search on somebody named Donald, we would find Donald and Donaldson if we did a search simply based on the word Donald because of the truncation in being put in place here. So it could be that that's not the complete word as far as the search is concerned. So therefore, it's going to give us as many results that match it completely or as close to it as possible. Thus, we would get Donald and Donaldson as results for a search such as that. Now, we could also do a phrase type of search where we could enclose a phrase in quotes. Now, so what I could do is put Costanza in quotations here. And it's going to streamline the search a little bit. But be careful if you do it in that way, folks, because the results may be more limited than what you're desiring. So, for example, if I did a search on quote-unquote John Smith, it would find John Smith and John Smithson, but it would miss Johnny Smith or John B. Smith. So let's say I had his middle initial in there, for instance. So what I mean by that as well is, let me give you an example here. So if we were talking about just doing the single word truncation, perhaps I would put something like that. Or maybe I'd type the full name for Costanza, like so. But if I went and put it in quotations like that, well, that's where I'm getting into a phrase search. And that's where it's going to limit my results just a little bit more, because it's only going to look for things that match whatever's in those quotations. Now, as well, we do have the option down here for an advanced check as well. You can see if I check this option off, it will search all emails and appointments for all the firm members, including the ones that aren't on the files. So that will slow down the search, as it does indicate here as well, but it is an optional option that I could simply check like so. Now, I'm not going to do that for the purposes of our test here, and I'm also going to get rid of my quotes, and I'm going to simply click on the Check Now button, like so, to proceed with this conflict check. Now, you'll see that it is spinning to give us a bit of a progress indicator. So upon clicking on the Check Now button, like we just did, the conflict check is now running. Depending upon the search criteria that we have entered, the total number of items to be searched, and things along those lines, this process can take some time to complete. Now, we can either leave the conflict check dialog open, like I have right here, until it completes, or I could click the close button that's found in the lower right of the conflict check dialog to close it while the conflict check continues to run in the background. I could even go so far as logging out of Amicus Online at this point, and the conflict check will still continue to run in the background for me. So that's something important to note as well that you might not have already known. Now, if desired, we could cancel the conflict check by simply clicking on the Cancel Search button, which we see right here. But I'm not going to do that in this case. I want to let this run so that you guys can see the results. So let me just close this here momentarily. Now, if we do close the conflict check like I've just done, it will continue to run in the background like I stated. And once completed, well, a reminder will appear above Tools in the main menu bar of Amicus Online. Just like what we're seeing here right now. You'll see I've got a little number 1 there. And you'll see as soon as I mouse over it, it's saying click to view conflict check results. So let's click on that to review those results. And as you can see, the search for Costanza, conducted by Eugene Young on Thursday, March the 21st, 2019 at 2:15 p.m., resulted in the following potential conflicts. So there's Estelle, there's Frank, and there's George. So I could save this to file. I could proceed accordingly from here however I wanted to do so. I just wanted you guys to see the actual results here. So I'm going to click close on that, and I'm not going to save that, so I'm just going to say no. So, and once we're done reviewing the results, we can just simply click the close button like I did there, or I could have opted to click that save to file button to save those results accordingly. Now, something important to note here as well for you folks is in regards to restricted items. So, items that you do not have access to are labeled as restricted and will show the name of the items assigned firm member or the file's responsible lawyer so that you may consult with them for further information. So it would still give you the results, it just might not allow you to review them on your own. And of course, once you're completed with the conflict check, like I did there, you would simply click the close button found in the lower right of the conflict check dialog to close that utility. And again, folks, that's just the close button right here, whether it's the results or just before we're running. So that in a nutshell, on a very high level, is the conflict check utility. So the next utility that I want to take a look at with you all together here today is the time entry assistant. And we're going to discuss and demonstrate how you guys can utilize the time entry assistant to capture time that you may have missed within Amicus Online. So the time entry assistant in Amicus Online makes it easy to ensure that time entries have been created for all relevant items. If file security is enabled for the firm, do note that only items associated with files you can access will be listed. So let's talk about accessing the time entry assistant. Well, we can do it from a number of places within Amicus Online. So this is one of those ones where it's not just accessible to us within the Tools module here. But given that we're already here, I'll show you this area first. So here in the Tools module, again, we would just click Tools on the menu bar at the top to get here. You'll see there's the time entry assistant. I could simply click on it like so to open it up. Now, I'm going to close it from here, though, because I'm going to show you another way that you can access it. So if you were in the Time and Expenses module, for instance. So let's click on Time and Expenses here on the menu bar. So now that I'm here in the Time and Expenses module, well, if you guys look down here in the lower right-hand corner, you will see that there is a button for the Time Entry Assistant. And if I was to click on it, well, you'll see I get the same dialog appearing to me here as I do when I'm accessing it right from the Tools module. So I'm just going to close it from here. I'm going to bounce back over to Tools, and we'll open it again from here. Now, what we see listed in the Time Entry Assistant? Well, once the dialog is opened, we're presented with a list of your items that are lacking time entries as follows. So any appointments that you're assigned to that have either taken place or are ongoing, any completed tasks that you are assigned to, any email that you may have sent or received, as well as any draft emails that you have created, any phone calls that you've created or are assigned to for callback, and any notes that you've created. So any of those particular types of items, if you haven't already created a time entry for them, well, the Time Entry Assistant is going to pick them up and basically remind you to do so. Now we can filter the list once we've opened up the dialog here, as you can see. Now by default, the list will show items for the last 3 days only. Now I've been in here earlier today, and that's why it's showing me the last 180 days. So as you can see, by default, it would have opened up to showing me 3 days as far as the filtering is concerned. And well, I don't have anything in the last 3 days. Thus, I had been in here earlier, just making sure everything was ready to go for us today. Now, we can include older items as well, or only items for today, since midnight, essentially. So whenever we're looking at a today designation, it's always from midnight onwards. Now, select the corresponding range in the drop-down menu above the list. And we can go so far as to include items up to 1 year. And do note as well, folks, that repeating appointments, I should say, are not going to be listed here. So as you can see, I've got the options for 1 day, 3, 7, 14, 31, 60, 90, 180 days, or 1 year. Well, I'm going to go with 180 days here. And there you'll see I've got 2 particular appointments from here. So let's talk about and demonstrate how we would go about creating time entries from the time entry assistant. And let me just see something else very quickly here. If I go back as far as a year, perfect. All right. I'm going to change my designation to a year, and there's a reason for that, because I want to demonstrate a couple of things to you here. So first thing first, we're going to demonstrate how to create time entries from the time entry assistant. So we would select one or more items in this list once we've taken care of our filtering, and then we would click on the Do Time Entry button. This creates a time entry for each selected item and then removes the selected item from the list. So what I would do is select that, and I'm going to select this one and this one. And yeah, I'll select these two appointments right now. And I'm going to click on the Do Time Entry button. So as you can see, this will create time entries for all the selected items in the list. You will need to open the individual time entries afterwards to make any edits. Are you sure you wish to proceed? I will say yes to that. You'll see I've also got the option for no, and I've got an option to do not show me this message again. So I will click yes on that, and you will see that that is processing. We get a progress bar, and voila, I have taken care of those 2 appointments. They have now had time entries created for them, and they are gone from this list. Now, one other thing that I wanted to show you guys while we're here in the time entry assistant is how we can hide items from the time entry assistant. So we could select one or more items in this list, again, once we've filtered it accordingly, and click the No Time Entry Needed button. This will remove or hide the selected items from the list, never showing them in this list again moving forward. So I'm going to select one of those here just to give you an example, and I will select this guy right here. So I'm going to say that no time entry is needed for that meeting regarding Bailey Kipling. So let's click on the No Time Entry Needed button like so. And as you can see, it's processed that. It's removed it from the list, so it's essentially hidden or removed, depending on, again, on how you want to look at it. And that's that. I could do a refresh. There we go. So that, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, at a high-level overview, is the time entry assistant. And just to show you guys as well, let me go in here, and let's say that I'm wondering if that's far enough back for me to see these time entries. Okay, let me see if I can go a little further back. Okay, and let me just change this back to, we'll go back a year for me to be safe here. I'll select March 1st, 2018, and there we go. There's those time entries. I'm not quite sure what that one's from, but these 2 are the ones that we just created using the time entry assistant. And if I wanted to open them up, well, I could just double click on them or select it and click open. And there's my time entry details. From there, I could update. I could make sure my duration looks good, make sure I've got the correct billing rate selected, and so forth. And I would simply do a save and close. All right, so that's the time entry assistant, folks. So let me go back out of here. So the next thing that I want to talk about, and it's the first of which are only accessible by an administrator with Amicus Online, is the Mass Time Entry Change utility. And we're going to discuss and demonstrate how using the Mass Time Entry Change utility to edit multiple time entries at once can be done. So like I said, this is accessible to only the administrator within Amicus Online. And well, as you can see, I am not an administrator in this particular installation. So let me just minimize this for a moment and open up my other browser. And you will see that I am indeed signed in as admin here. I even have my username as admin just to make sure that we know. And so if I look in here, well, if I'm in the tools module, you'll see I do have that additional option right there, mass time entry change. And well, if you look back here, you'll notice that Eugene does not have that option. All right, so the mass time entry change utility makes it easy to change the billing rate in multiple time entries all at once. If file security is enabled for the firm, note that only items associated with files you can access will be listed. Time entries that are in draft or finalized bills or that have been posted will not be listed and will not be affected. So only your unposted time entries can be dealt with in this manner, folks. So let's talk about accessing the mass time entry change utility. Well, we've already mentioned that you have to be logged into Amicus Online as an administrator, as this feature is only available to administrators. From there, we would navigate to the Tools module the same way that we've been doing so far throughout this webinar today, by clicking on Tools here on the main menu bar. And then from there, we would click on Mass Time Entry Change, like so. Okay, so now I've got my mass time entry change utility up here, and I did create some time entries earlier, and I'm just trying to see how far back I went. Let's say January 1st. Perfect. Okay, so I created these 4 time entries prior to our session today, just so we'd have something to actually use as examples here. But before I go ahead and do anything with these, let's just take a brief look here and discussion about what we're actually seeing in this particular dialog. So here in the mass time entry change utility, once it is open, we're presented with a list of our unbilled or unposted time entries, like I mentioned earlier, which can be worked with as follows. We can filter the list to select a particular billing rate or all rates optionally. Optionally, we can also pick particular timekeepers and a date range. So for instance, unbilled time entries with billing rate. If I click on this drop down, you'll see that I've got all of my options available to me here, or I could simply stick with all. Now from here, you'll see that I've got a people selector icon. So if I click on that, I'm presuming you guys are already kind of following along with me, but it's going to allow me to select from the users I have available to me here in Amicus Online, my fellow firm members. And as well, here's where I can affect my date range like you saw me do earlier. I've set my starting date as January the 1st, my end date as today. So now that we've done that, it's a matter of selecting which time entries to consider for change. So to quickly select all of them, we could simply click on the Select All option, like so. Now, only those that have the rate selected below will be affected. So for instance, if I want to change the selected unbilled time entries from a rate label, we would say change them all from normal to perhaps we want to change them to our premium rate, like so. So now, once I have made that designation, so again, I'm going to change all of these, and I could select deselect all, and you'll see that I could then toggle my selections like so. But again, I'm going to do a select all here. And again, we're going to say, let's change anything that's got a normal rate, which all of these happen to in this particular example. And we're going to change that to premium as far as the billing rate is concerned. So to complete the process, or I should say to initiate the process, I guess really here is the best way to put it. I've completed the settings as far as what I want done. So I would click on the proceed button like so. So you see that I do get a prompt. You're about to change the billing rate for 4 time entries from normal to premium. You will be notified by email when the changes are complete. Do you wish to proceed? Yes or no? Well, let's click yes and let that go through. So you'll see that the dialog closes for us. And once this completes, well, I'll receive an email telling me that the mass time entry change has completed successfully. And if it hasn't, then I will get an error and it'll tell me that it didn't. here. I do have one unread email. Let me go here. Look at that. Notifications. There's my mass time entry change. So let's just take a quick look at that particular email. Dear admin, your mass time entry change is complete. 4 of 4 time entries were changed. Perfect. And I could even go so far as to go back here. Let's say that I just did that in error for whatever reason. So again, let me change my dates. Let's go back to 2018. Actually, no, I don't need to go that far back. Sorry, I'll just go to February the 1st this time. There's my 4 time entries again. Let's select them all. And now let's change that from premium back to normal. And let's proceed. And again, I will say yes on that prompt. Oh, and I do have one unread email now, so let's go take a look. And there's the notification email for me. And if I click on that, you'll see that my 4 time entries again have been changed successfully. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the mass time entry change utility. Now, one tip I want to offer for you guys for a billing rate value change, you can use this utility in a scenario such as the following. So I'll give you a good example of where you might want to go to your administrator and have them utilize this. A firm member has changed their billing rate value and wants the totals for all appropriate time entries recalculated now, rather than waiting until each time entry has been opened and saved. So for example, if my user Eugene that you saw me using in the other browser window for Amicus Online here has increased his premium billing rate value from $300 to $350, I could filter the list in the mass time entry change utility to display his premium time entries for the applicable time and date range. I could select them all and then change their rate from premium to premium, thus updating to his new premium rate value. And like I said, this would update all of the time entries using the old premium rate of $300 to the new premium rate of $350. So that would be an example of a good reason for you to go to your administrator and say, hey, I've updated my billing rate value. Can you please update all my time entries for me that are unposted? Perfect. So that is that particular utility. Now, I will be coming back here to the administrator in a little while, but we're going to go back over to my normal user here for the next utility that we're going to take a look at, because I want to stress to you guys that this one's available to all users as well. So you don't need to be an administrator to run this particular utility. And that is the Collection Assistant. So let's take a look at and discuss how to utilize the Collection Assistant to send late payment reminders for overdue bills to our clients here in Amicus Online. So the Collection Assistant utility will help us to do that. To access it, well, there's a couple of ways we can do so. So much like the Time Entry Assistant, this one's accessible in a couple of different areas. So the first of which is obviously here in the Tools module. We would click on Tools up here in the main menu bar to get here, and then from there, we would simply click on Collection Assistant here, like so. But let's take a quick look at the other way to get here. So I'm going to go to the Billing module by clicking Billing here on the main menu bar, like so. And if you guys look down here in the lower right-hand corner, well, there's a button for Collection Assistant that I can access it from here as well. But I will go back to Tools. Again, seeing as how we're talking about the Tools module for the most part today, I'm going to open it from here. So I'm going to click on the Collection Assistant icon here, and voila, we are presented with our Collection Assistant. So I can filter the list of files to display those files that have not received any payment recently. So for an example, in the last 30 days, and I can set what I want the outstanding balance to be if it's more than 0 or another selected or entered amount. So for instance here, I could say, show me anything for the last 7, 15, 30, 60, or 90 days. I'll stick with 30 for now. And I can say that it has an outstanding balance more than 0, 500, 1,000, 2,500, 5,000, or other And I can simply put in what I want my value to be. Let's say I wanted it to be 10,000, like so. So let me change that back to 0. That'll give us a bigger list to work with here. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that we can do from this particular utility. And as well, so in this particular example, I've set the filter to 30 days. So a file will be listed if its bill was posted over the past 30 days, over 30 days ago, and nothing has been paid within the last 30 days. So it would not be listed if that bill was partially or fully paid within the last week. And a file whose only bill was posted less than 30 days ago will not be listed here either. I'd have to change my filtering in this particular example. Now, while I work from the Collection Assistant dialog, files will be removed from the list as we send reminders on them. So this will update real time as we deal with things. So let's take a look at sending a late payment reminder. So to send a late payment reminder email to a primary client, I would simply select the file on the list here. So we'll select this one, for instance. And I would click on the Create Late Payment Reminder button, like so. And as you can see, what it does is it creates this email. This is just a reminder that your account is now past due and your payment of $19,470.50 has not been received by our firm. Please remit your payment as soon as possible. If you have already mailed your check, please disregard this notice and accept our thanks for the payment. So you'll see that it does gather the payment information that's outstanding, essentially, from the file, and it provides it to the client in the actual body of the email for them. And at this point, I would simply click on the Send button to send that email. And of course, it would automatically save to the file as well, given that that's one of the beauties of Amicus Online. So I'm going to cancel on this because I don't really want to send that. But if I had, then this Ford DUI file would now be removed from my list. Now, I could also send or resend an invoice. So for instance, if I was to select a file from the list here, you'll see that I have the button down here to resend invoice. So if I click on that, well, an email is generated for me. And you'll see that there's the invoice attached. There's the PDF version of it. Actually, I've got a few invoices attached in this particular example. So this client is obviously way past paying us in a reasonable amount of time. As you can see, they've got an outstanding amount here of $14,480.50. So we've included all the invoices on which they have not yet made a payment. And we're going to send those by simply clicking on the Send button. Now, again, I'm going to click Cancel here. I don't really want to send these emails. To be honest with you, I don't even think that I've got legit email addresses in this particular example database, so that would just result in some undeliverable messages. So we'll avoid doing that, but I would presume that you guys kind of get the gist of what we're demonstrating here at this point. And so that, folks, is the Collection Assistant. Again, very easy to access and find, whether you're in the Billing module or the Tools module, and very easy to utilize in taking care of these sorts of things. So I'm going to simply click Close on that. And so we've got a couple utilities left to take a look at here. And then we're going to take a look at, or actually I've got one utility left to show you guys here right now. And then we'll take a look at Reports. And then I'll take a look at the Import utility very quickly with you guys as well. And that one is, again, an administrator only option. So the floating timer. Let's talk about and demonstrate how we can leverage the floating timer to work on a time entry without really opening its details. So the floating timer makes it easy for us to work on a time entry without having to open its time entry details dialog. We can start and stop the timer, edit the duration directly, and even assign a file. We can work with a brand new time entry or one of our existing time entries for today. In Amicus Online, Brian, to answer your question, only one individual can be an administrator currently. I don't believe that has changed. For instance, here, if we were to go to options here, I'm logged in as the administrator here. So if I was to go to options and go to user management, you'll see that I've got the option for administrator there. No, there is no option to make that an additional administrator. And if I was to go to add a new user, let me see. You'll see that I do not have the option to add an additional administrator as well. So that is indeed still the same as it has always been. So when it comes to Amicus Online, whoever the first individual is that signs up for your firm and accesses the first time, that individual is the administrator. Now, if you guys needed to change who that administrator is, well, do just reach out to our Amicus Online technical support team, and they would be able to assist you in taking care of that sort of thing. You're quite welcome, Brian. All right, so let me go back over to my other browser here, and we'll quickly talk about the floating timer, and then we'll take a look at some of the reports options that are available to us here. So from any module, I could access this. So let me just cancel that for a moment, and I'm going to say no. So I can access this from any module within the program. So if I was on the home screen, I can click on the timer right here. And as you can see, if I'm in email, if I'm in files, calendar, it doesn't matter. It's always right there. Now as well, if I was in a time entry that is for today, so let me see, I don't have any there particularly, so let me go here. So let's just say I've got this time entry open. That should have done something a little bit differently here, so let me just see. So let me see if I expand that. Aha. So you can see I can even dock it right up here. And of course, I can associate to a file. I could simply select my Bailey-Rekipling file here like so. I could open the time entry details. I can save and close them from here, or I can cancel from here. And of course, I can access this as well by going to the Tools module and selecting the floating timer. Now, let's say, I've already entered my file information here. I've got my duration here, but I could pause that and I could simply put in whatever I wanted. So I could say that I spent an hour on this and 42 minutes. There we go. And the duration, just so you guys know, is in either tenths of an hour or minutes, as you have set within the options, My Preferences, here within Amicus Online. So let me quickly show you where that is set. So if we go to My Preferences and we look at time entries, My Time Settings, time should be formatted in, and you'll see we've got a drop-down option here for tenths of an hour or minutes. And then based upon your selection is how your minimum increments and durations would be set accordingly. And so again, I could click the Open button here. And there you go. I'm seeing the actual time entry details here now. And I could put in my notes and so forth. And of course, if I want to minimize it, like I showed you guys earlier, I would just do something like that. And it will just stay floating here at the top of the screen for me for when I'm ready. Now, something important to note for you guys as well, only one time entry timer can be running at any given time. So starting the timer in a time entry details dialog will stop the timer in this if you were to do something like that, but it won't close the view. Similarly, launching the floating timer or restarting the timer in one will stop any timer currently running in a time entry details dialog. So again, you can only have one timer running essentially at one given time. And do note that phone call and email timers can be running at the same time as a time entry timer because, well, they're different entities within the program. So I'm going to just cancel on that. Do I want to save this active timer as a time entry? That would be a no. And so the next thing I want to spend some time focusing on with you guys, we'll do a basic overview of reports within Amicus Online and how to work with them. So like Amicus Online includes reporting templates that will allow you to review information in regards to billing, files, phone calls, and time. Now to access reports, well, we would simply navigate to the Tools module here like we've been doing so far throughout our presentation today by clicking Tools on the main menu bar here in Amicus Online. And then we would actually click on Reports over here on the left. And so now we've got the Reports view open in front of us. So from here, we would need to select a category on the left to display the report templates that are available for that particular category. So let's do a quick overview of the different reports in each category, and then once I get through that, we'll run one together just so you guys can see the workflow of that as well. So we're in the billing category right now. So we've got a bill history report. This report will show a chronological history of all activity pertaining to a particular invoice, including any payments and write-ups or write-downs. We've got a client listing report here. This report provides a concise summary of files and their current balances, including work in progress, or WIP, depending on how you want to refer to that, accounts receivable, also known as AR, trust and general retainer balances as well. Now, WIP and AR are broken down by fees and expenses. Summaries will appear by file type and responsible lawyer in this particular report. We also have an accounts receivable report here. This report lists account receivable balances for files along with the aging of each outstanding invoice. Client name and phone number assist you in collections. Trust and general retainer balances help identify files that have retainer balances which can be used to pay outstanding balances. Now, we've also got a WIP report here. This report summarizes and displays the aging for unbilled fees and expenses per file. Summaries are provided by responsible lawyer and by file type. The time and fee listing report. This report details and summarizes time and fees created for all of your files. Summaries are by timekeeper, activity code, and file type are included. Now the next one here is the client expense report. This report shows details and a summary of any expenses entered for files. Expense details will include the description charge, the expense type, whether it's hard or soft cost, and billing status of the entry. The report can be run for one or more files. The summaries will appear by responsible lawyer, file type, and expense code. Now, we've also got a time billing and collections report here. This report summarizes by file all the accounting activity that has occurred, including time, expenses, billing, collections, and write-ups and write-downs. Now, our next one is a client payment distribution report. This report will display payments made against client bills. It details how the receipt was allocated between fees, expenses, and taxes. File totals appear, and summaries by fee lawyer, file type, and responsible lawyer are included. Now we've got this next one, which is a general bank receipt report. This report details all payments to the general bank accounts. A summary by responsible firm members is provided. The next one available here is adjustments. This report details adjustments by invoice. Summaries are provided by responsible lawyer and file type. Next one is write-offs. This report would detail any write-offs by invoice. Summaries are provided by responsible lawyer and file type. Next, we've got the client trust listing. This report will detail the file allocation of funds in each trust bank account. The report includes summaries by responsible lawyer and by bank account. The trust bank journal details all checks and receipts for your trust bank accounts. Summaries are provided by bank account, file, and responsible lawyer in this particular report. Sorry, that was the trust bank journal. The client trust ledger. Now this report details client trust. The trust bank journal. This report details all checks and receipts for your trust bank accounts. Summaries are provided by bank account, file, and responsible lawyer. Sorry if I missed one there for you. I kind of are write-offs like discounts. Brian, the official definition of a write-off, I'm the wrong person to ask for that. I'm really not of the bookkeeping persuasion. But yes, in essence, at least as far as I'm concerned and what people have explained to me about them in the past, you are indeed correct. It's like applying a discount on a bill. And it's just in the way that it shows up, I'm presuming, as far as to why they're called write-offs and so forth. If you're asking me for the definition or anything like that, I'll apologize and admit my lack of information on that front. But basically, yes, in essence, the best answer I can give you is it is indeed like a discount. Now, just a couple other reports. Oh, you're quite welcome, Brian. Just a couple other that I would like to mention here when we're talking about billing reports. We've got client transactions. Sorry, there's the client trust ledger, client transactions, and client profitability. The client trust ledger simply gives as a detailed report of client trust transactions within a certain date range. Summaries are provided by file and responsible lawyer. Now, the client transactions report provides a detailed summary of accounting transactions on one or more files. Details for fees, expenses, bills, payments, and trust accounting will appear in chronological order. Summaries will include billed charges, unbilled charges, accounts receivable, and retainer balances, both for general and trust accounts. And client profitability. Now, this report will summarize all the fees and expenses that are entered on a file and will show how much of it has been billed and the effective billing realization. Additionally, it will show you how much of what has been billed has actually been paid and the resulting collection realization. This report can be used to identify the profitability of your cases and your files. Now, those are all the billing reports. So let's take a quick look at the files reports, and we don't have as many to go through here, so that's not too bad. And I'm looking at our time, so I'm hoping that I can get through these and show you guys at least talk about the import utility briefly here as well. We might go a little past the hour. I'll apologize for that now, but I'll try to make it as quick as I can. Now, here in the files category for reports, we've got an active files report. This report would show us a list of all of our active files. You'll be prompted to optionally limit by responsible lawyer. The report includes the name of the file type, the client and matter IDs, the file summary, and the open date. Now we've got a files opened in date range report that shows a list of all of your active files that are opened within a specific date range. You will be prompted to select the dates and optionally limit by responsible lawyer, file type, and file status. The report will include the name of the file type, and the client and matter IDs, the file summary, plus the open date and the current status. Now, we've also got a files closed in date range. Now, this report shows us a list of all of our files that are closed within a specific date range. Again, we would be prompted to select the dates and optionally limit by responsible lawyer and file type. And much like the last report, this one includes the name of the file type, the client and matter ID, the file summary, plus the opened and closed dates of those files. Now, the next one we have is contacts on selected file. This report shows a list of all contacts on the selected file. You're prompted to select the file at the time you're running the report, and then once it's generated, the report will include the contact and the company, their role on the file, plus their phone number, email address, and mailing address. Now, we've also got a couple other ones here. Contact list for files opened within a date range, or in a date range. This report shows a list of all of your contacts on your files that were opened in a specific date range. You are prompted to select those dates, thus being the start and end dates, obviously, the responsible lawyer or lawyers, file type, roles on file, and status. This report will then include the file name, the file type, the current status, plus the contact and company name, their role on the file, primary phone number, and either their email or mailing address. Now we've got a couple other ones here. File details. This report shows all of the basic file details for a given file. You're prompted to select the file at the time you run the report, and the report includes the name of the file type, the current status, its open date, and its billing information. It will also list all of the contacts with their role on that file, their company, phone, and email. The report also includes any information that's tracked within custom fields. Now we've got a limitation dates report here as well. This report shows a list of all of your files where the limitation date has not yet been satisfied. The report displays the file name, the file type, the responsible lawyer, and the limitation date. The report also includes an optional list of any files where the limitation date has not yet been set. You will be prompted to select the responsible lawyer or lawyers. And the last one here in the files category is the file chronology report. This report shows a chronological list of all activities for a given file. This includes all appointments, tasks, email, phone calls, time entries, expenses, bills, payments, trust transactions, and documents. You will be prompted to select the file. The report includes the date of the activity, the subject, the parties involved where appropriate, and the firm member assigned. So that's the files category. We've got two more to go here very quickly, folks, and neither one of these contains a lot of reports. So again, we'll be very quick. In this one, we've got phone calls. So this is our phone calls category. We've got 3 reports. We've got phone calls in a date range. So this report shows a list of all phone calls in a specified date range. You're prompted to select the dates at the time you run it. The report will include the caller's name, their phone number, the notes from the call, the file, the date, and the firm member involved. Now the next one is phone calls on a selected file. This report shows a list of all the phone calls on a selected file. You will be prompted to select that file at the time of running the report. The report will include the caller's name, their phone number, the notes from the call, the file, and the date and the firm member involved. And then the last one is phone calls requiring callback. This report will show all phone calls that require a callback. It's a handy one to run when you need to see any calls that you need to return. This report also includes the caller's name, their phone number, the notes from the call, the date, and the firm member that was involved. And the last category here in reports is time. And again, we don't have a lot of reports here, so I'll give you a brief rundown of each one of them here. We've got time entries in date range. This report shows a list of all time entries in a specified date range. At the time of running the report, you're prompted to select the start and end dates. The report will include the file name, the date, and time entry description. The duration and the value are also listed along with totals for each. Now we've also got a time entries on selected file. So this report shows a full list of all time entries on a selected file. At the time of running the report, we are prompted to select the file. This report includes date and time entry descriptions. The duration and value are also listed along with the totals for each one. Now we've got time entries on selected file in a date range. This report shows a list of all the time entries in a specified date range for a selected file. At the time of running that report, you're prompted to select the file as well as the start and end dates for that date range. And this report will include the date and the time entry description. The duration and the value are also listed along with totals for each. Now the last 2 reports we see here are billable time entries in the date range and non-billable time entries within a date range. Now, these reports show all billable or non-billable, depending on which one you've selected, time entries within a specified date range. We are prompted at the time of running those reports to select the dates, ideally our start and end dates. These reports will include the file name, date, and description for each time entry. The duration and value are also listed along with totals for each, and that's for both those respective reports, whether it's billable or non-billable that you've selected. So very quickly, let's run one report together here. So I'm going to just run my active files report for an example here. So to run a report in Amicus Online, well, I go to the reports view here like so. I select the category I want and I select the report that I want to run. Upon doing so, I click the open button. That's when I'm prompted for whatever I'm going to be prompted for in this particular case. Now, on this one, I'm going to just say, yeah, let's use Eugene. So I'll select him like so, save and close. Let's hit OK. And there is my report, folks. It's just populating here now. And so there's that report. Very quickly, I'll close that. I just wanted to show you guys. Now as well, I could have just clicked the icon on the left here, or I could just double click on the report to do the same thing that we just did by clicking the open button. Okay. All right, so I want to briefly, we don't have a lot of time here left, folks. I've already gone over and above, so I'll be very quick about this. But administrators within Amicus Online do have an additional feature available to them, which is the import feature. Now, we definitely don't have time for me to go through a demonstration of this, and I don't have anything prepared to do so, but I will give a brief overview of it, as I did promise that, so I'm going to make sure to deliver for you folks here. So, much like the mass time entry change utility that we touched upon earlier in today's webinar, Amicus Online does provide an import utility. However, it's only accessible by the administrator, as I've mentioned and demonstrated here. If we want to import new files and/or contacts to Amicus Online from data output from another application, well, this utility provides us the functionality to do so. We can also import contact file associations if available. Now, the import utility can be used to populate your Amicus Online database at the initial or onboarding stage, so when you're first starting out, or it can be used to later add additional records to your existing Amicus Online database. Let's take a very high-level look at the steps that would be involved in utilizing the import feature within Amicus Attorney. So step one would be to ensure that a basic Amicus setup has been done. So for best results, I would recommend, folks, that you ensure that all your Amicus firm members have been added to Amicus Online. Also ensure that the following lists have been set for the firm. In most cases, default values may be set for new records, and in some cases, new values may be added from the imported records. But I would definitely suggest that you make sure you take care of the firm member user groups, your file types, your billing rate labels, your billing statuses, and your tax rate labels before you ever begin importing anything. Now, step two would be to export the data from the third-party application, or the other application, if you will. So export that desired data, your files, your contacts, your contact file associations, to a CSV format data file. Now, once you've got that CSV file, then in Amicus Online, you would identify which particular fields or columns to import from that particular CSV file, and you could utilize Microsoft Excel to inspect your data files if desired as well. Step three would be to configure the import. So you would choose the type of data to import. So if I do click on import, I could either do a file import, a contact import, or a contact file association import. So that's where we're saying choose the type of data. Once you've done that, then you would specify the data file and choose whether to use a saved configuration template or start from scratch. Then you would map the data fields to your Amicus fields and choose some additional settings specific to the type of import. And do note that if someone has given you an import template, you can add it to Amicus Online for use. Again, I apologize for not having time to go through all of this from a demonstration perspective, but I did want to at least give you guys this information. And of course, you can export a saved template for sharing with others as well. Now, step four is optionally save your customization as a template. Step five is to start the import. So very quickly here, folks, I'm going to just show you the screens here quickly. I've clicked on File Import. Let me try that again. I'm hoping to demonstrate this. Just bear with me a moment here. And it just signed me out. Okay, let me try this again here, folks. So very quickly, I know we are well over time, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to show you at least one screen, so hopefully what we've discussed can be made sense of. Okay, let me quickly select File Import here. Okay, I'm not sure if this is my browser's issue or not, or if there's something going on, folks, but apparently this is just not going to cooperate with us this afternoon, so I will apologize on not being able to demonstrate the import feature, but that's twice now. It's simply kicked me out of the program in selecting it. So I'm going to avoid all of us being frustrated by that, and unfortunately we'll have to skip the demonstration portion of that. But if there's any additional questions at this point, I'm happy to answer those for you guys. I will remain on for a couple more minutes here if there's any questions left outstanding. Brian, again, I hope I've answered all of your questions so far, and again, you are quite welcome. Again, my pleasure, Brian. Thank you. And I would say that at this point, folks, it does look like we have reached the end of our session for today. We've gone 7 minutes over, so I do definitely apologize for that, but I hope that you've all enjoyed this session today. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend and participate in today's Abacus Next Free Training Thursdays, Amicus Online built-in tools and reporting session. And again, I'll apologize for not being able to show off the import stuff towards the end there, but we did have a lot of stuff to cram into an hour, so for the most part, I hope that we got everything covered for you guys, at least in a nice overview level. And again, we hope to see you guys back here next week, where we'll be discussing, I believe it's document assembly basics, but please do check our webinar's schedule online to be certain of that. But I do believe that that is next week's session. And of course, now that I'll go check that, I'll probably find that I've been wrong and giving you guys all incorrect information. But like I said, do check the webinars section of our website for the most up-to-date information on all of the webinars that are coming up. And if you want to review any one that you've already participated in or perhaps missed, you'll find links on there to view those videos as well. And don't forget as well, folks, Abacus Maximus is coming up the end of June of this year. Please go to abacusmaximus.com for further information, and I invite all of you to register early if you are planning on attending, and that way you'll be sure to make sure that you're all taken care of and getting all the information and so forth presented to you prior to when it needs to be, and that way you'll make sure to get accommodations and so forth as well. And I will be speaking at Abacus Maximus this year along with many of my other colleagues, and we'll be talking about all the different products under the Abacus Next umbrella, including Amicus Attorney, Abacus Law, Results, and Hot Docs as examples. So please do join us for all of our sessions as well as all of our guest speakers at Abacus Maximus, and I look forward to seeing all of you there. And again, thank you all for attending today. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week and weekend to come. And for those of you that are attending next week's webinar, I will see you online then.